Hey guys, and welcome back to the Cookie Jar. Today we are starting the Fudge Cupcake Murder by Joanne Fluke. There are actually 10 recipes in this book. We will be making 9 of them, with the exception of the recipe called Hold in 1, which, if memory serves, is a breakfast item. It's a piece of bread with a circle cut out and an egg put in, if memory serves right. So, the first recipe we are doing is called the Boggles, which is these 2 pages right here, very early in the book, you can see. So, we are baking these right away. They go on at 350. And one thing I can already tell you from getting the ingredients ready for this is it is going to be a very large batch of cookies. Like, it's a lot. There's also a lot of little things in here. For things you're going to need 2 cups of melted butter, that's 4 sticks, 2 cups of brown sugar, 2 cups of white sugar, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, 4 eggs beaten, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, 4 cups of flour, 3 cups sweetened dried cranberries, raisins, or another brand. It also says if you can't find the cranberries where you live, you can substitute any chopped dried fruit such as dates, apricots, peaches, etc. I had no problem getting it. I went to the store. They had a huge section of different cranberries and other dried fruits. This book was written almost 20 years ago. So I think back then maybe they weren't as popular. I don't remember. I remember when craisins came out. It was like a huge thing. The last thing you're going to need is 3 cups rolled oats, uncooked oatmeal. And then there isn't really anything major in the recipe as far as notes or anything like that. It says a yield 10 to 12 dozen depending on cookie size. These freeze well if you roll them in foil and put them in a freezer bag. That's the last of it. That's all it's up here. It's basically just to mix everything up, scoop it out, bake it off. Nothing extra or anything like that. So very simple cookie recipe. Everything's laid out in the kitchen. Let's get in there and get started. This is everything we are going to need today. So we have our 2 cups of melted butter in the bowl already. To this, we are adding the 2 cups of brown sugar and the 2 cups of white sugar. And we're just going to give that a mix. Now, it does say to cool it slightly, but I melted my butter quite a bit earlier, so it's already pretty cold, or room temperature, whatever you want to prefer it as. So, the next thing that we're doing is we are adding the 4 eggs, as well as the teaspoon of baking powder, the teaspoon of baking soda, the teaspoon of salt, the 2 teaspoons of vanilla, the half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and the 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. All that goes in. The next thing going in is our 4 cups of flour, and it just says add flour and mix, so all of it's going to go in at one time, which is going to make a very large flour cloud, I'm sure. I'm just going to stop it real quick and push down, try to scrape down the stuff at the top, because quite a bit, popped up when we were starting to mix, and I don't just want it sitting on the top. It doesn't want to come off. Come on. It is also now getting stiff, and it's a lot in the mixer, and we still have the 3 cups of cranberries and the 3 cups of oats to add. So something tells me I'm going to end up hand mixing at least one of them in, probably, from the looks of it. All right, now it says add the cranberries and the oats and mix everything up. Dough will be quite stiff. So our 3 cups of sweetened dried cranberries And our 3 cups of oats. There we go. All right, everybody into this weird little party. So it is just now occurring to me that these are basically an oatmeal raisin cookie, but with cranberries. I did not make that connection until just right now. I feel a little bit duh, but so we'll see how close they are at the end when I taste them. Yeah. All right, let's get this all mixed up off the beaters and in the bowl. And like I said, when I was portioning out the ingredients, I knew before I even saw that it says 10 to 12 dozen on the bottom that this was going to be a large cookie recipe. This is definitely one, unless you have a big gathering or it's just like a fan favorite in your house that you're going to want to have as a recipe. This is also, we're not rolling this. No, we're dropping it by teaspoons onto greased cookie sheets. But I'm going to say, while the dough is stiff, it's not, I'm going to hold a shape stiff. Here is our dough. This is what it looks like. I'm just going to clear up a little bit, and then we're going to start plopping them on the cookie sheets. Okay, so for those, we're just going to scoop it up. What it looks like. And we're just going to try to plop it down. Try to space them out as best you can. These are probably stable enough that you could move them if you needed to. It's not the best, but you could if you put them down wrong, or you feel like at the end of it you didn't space them right. You probably can move them. It's just going to be a little difficult. So here is the first tray. This is what they look like. So I'm just going to get the rest scooped up, and I'll be back with the final count. Guys, all right, y'all ready for this? When I said we were going to have a lot of cookies, I was not wrong. There are 120 cookies here, which is exactly 10 dozen. This is definitely the most we have ever made per batch. So these are just going to go through the oven at 350 for 12 minutes, cool for 2, and then be transferred to a wire rack. Okay, so finally finished baking all of these cookies. It is a lot. So here is the front and the back of the Boggles. They're crunchier and they're chewier than I expected. They taste just like an oatmeal raisin cookie, but the cranberries give it more of a zing. That's the best thing I can think of to describe it. Because raisins, they're sweet, but they don't really have a lot of ooh to them. They actually taste just like raisins. This tastes just like an oatmeal raisin cookie. It's got the same kind of spices, and this is a really good cookie. It makes a lot. So unless you're planning on feeding an army, maybe not an army, but unless you have a purpose for this recipe, I would half it for sure. Because 100 cookies is a lot to just have laying about. It's a good recipe. The cranberries give it a little bit something different to have, make it a little bit more special. So next week we are doing the cherry winks. That is the second recipe from the book. The name cherry winks doesn't give me anything to go off of as to what kind of cookie they're going to be. So if you're interested in finding that out together, join us next week. Bye guys. Have a good one.